Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and Shadowlands has been a very fun expansion. It's been immensely enjoyable, and just about everything in Shadowlands so far is either exciting or absolutely amazing. I'm still having so much fun just going through all the different content. I'm really been diving into Mythic Pluses recently, and I've been having a blast, and the raid fights are also insanely good. But every single expansion, especially during the alpha and the beta, has bugs that need to be worked out, and a lot of you guys have seen quite a lot of bugs over during the alpha and the beta live streams. And when the expansion finally gets released, you hope that it comes out with as little bugs as possible, preferably none at all. Some bugs though have made it into Shadowlands, and in today's video in particular I want to highlight some of the bugs plaguing rogues and some that are very much Outlaw specific, in hopes that at some point somebody at Blizzard sees this and maybe even make some adjustments in future patches. First of all, these aren't bugs that I found personally. In fact, it was actually tipped off over in the Rogue Discord community by Guy, otherwise known as Forever Guy, one of the dudes that wrote a guide over on the Rogue Discord and is generally a helpful dude. If you guys want to check out the Rogue Discord, Ravenhold link together with my own Discord is down below if you guys want to check out those things. But he tipped me off with some of the different bugs that he thought that maybe should be talked about, and I felt it would be a good idea to spotlight them in this video. We're gonna start off with the very first bug for a very cool conduit that I was super excited to test out once I got Nagia in the vent tier a little bit more upgraded. So it's going to be Cloaked in Shadows, an endurance conduit where when you pop into stealth, you gain a shield for a portion of your health. When you're out of stealth, every second you lose a portion of that shield. This is supposed to be a very powerful defensive conduit for rogues for any soulbinds, and has a lot of uses primarily in PvP. However, rogues have only two ways of getting stealth. One is re-stealthing, which is behind a pillar in PvP or before a boss fight, and generally you don't find stealth again until you vanish. However, this conduit just doesn't work with vanish. When you vanish, you have to sit and vanish for a little bit until you gain stealth, but in most PvE situations, most rogues are not going to sit with idle hands with vanish. Normally, we would think that this ability would work as soon as you vanish, giving you an enhanced version of stealth, but stealth regardless. Plus, it's not consistent because of other factors like the Rogue 100% crit Lego that works off of stealth, that gives you the buff immediately as soon as you vanish. So what is a legendary work and does see vanish as a stealth, but this conduit doesn't. Again, seems very consistent and very much so buggy. The next bug is going to be without the rogue's strongest conduit called Count the Odds, which is very similar to a Legion tier 21 set bonus. It's very similar in regard where when you use your finisher, you have a chance to roll a buff that you do not currently have from Roll the Bones. And it's actually modified to be even better with this expansion that includes abilities like Ambush and supposed to even use certain Covenant abilities. Let's actually rewind that, because this actually as a vent tier still reads for the ability of Slaughter, which was like a modified Ambush from back in the day. So I hope that Blizzard goes in and cleans that up, because we no longer have Slaughter. We haven't had Slaughter for quite a bit. Maybe Slaughter is somewhere in the game files, but it's not currently used by the specs, and it will make some rogues think that, oh, if I use my Covenant ability, I think it just will confuse a lot of people that want to give rogues as a vent tier a try. Anyway, going back to the conduit itself, Count the Odds is pretty interesting, as it has a couple different things you can do with it. First of all, when you ambush, it actually gives you a much longer duration of a buff. The conduit reads it can give you a buff you do not currently have for 5 seconds, but when you ambush it seems to last for like 13 seconds, which is far longer, which makes vanish ambushes for Outlaw even stronger, which is probably why this conduit is so damn good. But also, when you use Dispatch, you have a chance to roll the buffs like normal, as it says in the actual tooltips of the ability of the conduit. However, if let's say you rolled a Bones buff and you had a really good one and you were trying to min-max it, like, you know, really down to the wire and not have to reroll until the final second of the buff being gone, let's say you have like 2 seconds or 1 second of a really good buff, and then you use Dispatch in those 2 seconds left, and you got another buff. Maybe it's something good like Broadsides that gives you extra combo points and damage. And you're thinking to yourself, well, okay, I can maybe wait a couple seconds longer, use up the Broadsides, and then I'll reroll. You have two kinds of buffs. You have your original Roll the Bones buff, whatever it is, and I have an extra buff that's supposed to be there for 5 seconds. However, as soon as your original buff that you got from Roll the Bones disappears, it actually removes all the other extra buffs you've gotten from the conduit. So those buffs say they'll be there for 5 seconds, but in fact, if your original roll the bones falls off, it will remove them as well, which is a little bit weird and apparently a bug that was back in Legion, and Blizzard did go back and fix it. So if somebody can go back and fix this conduit to whatever the fix was applied for the original fix back in Legion, I think that would be great. Then we have one that works with Echo and Reprimand in particular. This one is going to be very interesting for all rogues to note. If you use Echo and Reprimand, the Curing ability from Stealth, for some reason or another, it gives you Find Weakness debuff, and for quite a while too. And this Find Weakness can be used as Subtlety, but also as Assassination and as Outlaw. There's a lot of cheese with this. Normally, Outlaw and even Assassination are not even specs meant to get some kind of an armor penetration buff. And nothing in the tooltip of this ability either reads that it gives you Find Weakness, even as Subtlety in particular, but for one reason or another, it gives you Find Weakness. You might have seen a lot of rogues playing Curing in particular in your raids and maybe even in dungeons. While Curing is pretty cool and the Mog is pretty awesome, the ability is pretty easy to play with, and even the ability of the extra vial that you can play with is also very effective. Now you might know why everybody and their mother is playing Curing as rogues. Even if Venti or Sims better for single target, a lot of people are playing Curing. Of course, again, Curing has other benefits, but this one is huge and gives somebody, especially with Outlaw rogues and with as short as vanishes as we get with cooldown reduction mechanics, basically allowing us in some cases minute-long vanishes. If that lines up really well with some of our cooldowns and maybe with other powerful buffs, it creates for a very, very interesting situation where we are able to do incredible damage. It's incredible damage not from a thing that's a passive for the spec, but rather just because it's bugged and for whatever reason it applies Find Weakness no matter what spec of rogue you end up playing. Then we have the ability of Between the Eyes and the crit modifier that it has not working properly with Blade Flurry. Between the Eyes as an ability doesn't really hit all that hard. However, if it crits, it does 4 times the damage. So that's why it makes Outlaw rogues view critical strike as a stat favorably. And that's kind of like the big mechanic of Between the Eyes. It is an ability with a debuff, but it's also meant to be used as a major finisher. If you can get cooldown reduction and use a bunch of Between the Eyes, if you get very lucky crits, you'll do quite a lot of damage. So Between the Eyes, for some reason or another, it just doesn't properly work with Blade Flurry. I've noticed this a lot in Mythic Pluses, but I haven't been able to explain it up until now, and after God pointed this out to me, it all makes sense. For some reason in Mythic Pluses, if I'm ever in a AoE situation, using Between the Eyes on cooldown just didn't feel like it netted me that much damage, and on the flip side, Dispatch felt a lot more consistent. So take a look at what Guy showed me is, Between the Eyes right now, critical strike bonus doesn't seem to be working with Blade Flurry properly. Normally Between the Eyes is 4 times the damage, but the Blade Flurry number of 40% the critical strike doesn't reflect it. Take a look at some of my testing. If a Between the Eyes does get a crit on trained dummies, it seems that the number is a lot lower. 40% of 6,209, which was my Between the Eyes crit, should be 2,483. But it looks like the game is registering about half of that as the actual Blade Flurry window. So it looks like Blade Flurry and Between the Eyes are not calculating the damage properly. Between the Eyes is still getting the 4 times crit benefit, but Blade Flurry only is counting the double the benefit value. I'm not sure if this seems intended. I don't think it was, and I don't think that was the same issue that we had back when this ability was a simple stun in BFA. Otherwise, I feel like this would have been an issue solved a lot earlier. Anyway, that's going to be my video. Big credit to Guy for pointing these out to me. The Curing one in particular just kind of got me scratching my head. I wonder if it will take a lot of rogues rerolling Curing just for this bug before Blizzard does anything about it. And I wonder if maybe that was intended for the ability, it's just never made in tooltip, or if it's actually not intended. Either way, hopefully Blizzard makes some kind of an address about some of these bugs for the Tuesday reset, but I wanted to spotlight them in this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about these bugs. Some of them are kind of crazy. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.